out of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? You were tuning to the Apartment 5B podcast hosted by your man Kill. I got my squad with me in effect, as always. My little sis, it's been a minute. Porsche, what's going on, miss?
Not a whole lot, Kill. So good to be here.
All right, no doubt. We got my brother Kel out of Queens, who's gonna have to break something down for me because I've never heard of this shit before. I call him and he tells me, Kill, I can't make Apartment 5B this week because I'm in Atlanta for Queens Day. How the fuck is Atlanta having a Queens Day? I mean, I've never heard. When did this start, Kelv? And for people who may not know, Kelv is the mayor of Queens and Morgan State University. If you want to know anything about Morgan, when the new dorm is opening, more funding that we just got, if they change the name of the library, that is the person you need to get to. And he's also the mayor of Queens. Kelvin, please explain to me how the state of Georgia has a Queens Day.
First of all, good to be back. So Georgia, I think because, and it's funny because I was looking at my friend list on social media, and all these heads was moving to Queens, moving to Atlanta. And I'm like, so I started counting one day. I counted 48 people in my friend list from Queens that live in Atlanta. But the Queens Day started like 4 years ago. So obviously I know 40 people. There's got to be more. So I don't even know who organized who first started this stuff, but it's like this is the fourth annual year that they're doing it, and every year it gets bigger. They have Grandmaster's there, Capone was there, Chuck, Omega, Craig G, MC Shan, Consequence. I mean,
hey man, you take who you can get, man.
You take who you can get, right? So the event is every year is growing and growing. Havoc, Mob Deep was there. Havoc and Noy were there this year.
Okay.
But like it was like 4 nights. They had a black tie affair. They had an R&B night. They had a park jam. Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I have to say the pictures. I mean, at least 5,000 people out there.
Wow.
Yo, that's so crazy, bro.
Crazy.
I can't even imagine the state of California having a Brooklyn Day. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
the funny thing is, Atlanta has a Brooklyn Day and a Bronx Day coming up. So they got
Vague, you gotta go, man. You gotta go, Vague, and hold it down, man, for the borough.
Vegas.
I will not. I will not be in it. I'll be there in spirit, y'all. Spirit.
Oh God. Another thing about Kel, people may not know, he has the dopest hip-hop t-shirt collection on the planet. Right now we got Wild Pitch Records that he's rocking. Wild Pitch Records. What are we talking about, Kel? That's main source.
OC.
That OC. Chill Rob G? Was Chill Rob G Wild Pitch?
Chill Rob G, Ultramagnet, UMCs.
UMC. Yeah. Now, for young people who may be watching, these things, record labels, these were these things in the old days where you had to get a record deal in order to put your music out. And you would literally be able to look at a label and say, oh, Loud Records, that's Big Pun, that's Pete Rock, that's Mobb Deep, that's Wu-Tang, that's Raekwon. Like, you would be able to sit there and be able to just look at a record label and then just spew off all the people who are on that label. We can't do that anymore. It's just the game has changed. I got my brother Vegas, Bed-Stuy Vintage in the building. What's going on, good brother?
Chilling, man. Just hit 500 subscribers on the channel, Hip Hop Now.
Cool.
So
Congratulations, Vic.
Thank you. Dope stuff. So, now it's the road to 1,000. And we're pushing, to get to that point. So
All right, that's what's up. That's what's up. We got my brother Eddie out of LA. What's going on, bro?
What's good? What's good, man? Man, what's crazy is with this whole Queens Day in Atlanta, there's a lot of New Yorkers in LA. I think the closest we had to that was the Knicks watch parties, like in Silver Lakes. It was getting crazy out there. Like, we have a whole bar that we filled up just with New Yorkers and New York fans. So that was pretty crazy. But
all right, let me just ask a very quick question. I'm literally saying just thumbs up or thumbs down. It's nothing deep. We're not doing this today. How do you Knicks fans feel about getting cat? Just thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay. I'm very shocked, but we will leave it with thumbs up. Y'all know me. Let's jump right into it. We are continuing our Bible show. The Bible show comes from the premise of me being on Twitter all the time and people saying that Illmatic was the hip hop Bible. I think one day I posted Criminal Minded or Paid in Full, and I was like, this is my hip hop Bible. Now I'm like, well, can any one album really be the Bible? And I don't think it can. So it's like, okay, it's 66 Bibles. So we're going to be looking at 66 albums. If the world was ended, and we knew the world was ended, and we need to combine 66 albums from 1980 to 2023, what would those albums be? We did 12 years from 80 to 84, then 85 to 89, and we did 90 to 94. We are now in the 95 to 99 show. There's only 12 albums that you can pick. Portia's texted me at least 5 times a day, like I got 20, Kill. What? And I'm like, nigga, I don't know what, because you got to break them down to 12.
My words were, can my Bible be longer than your guys's? Like, can I just have like a new version or like a revised version that's longer? And Kill said no.
No. So Portia's going to have to break these 20 down to 12. I know it was hard. It's like when Noah had to go get these animals, I'm sure he had to leave some. Like, I'm sure every animal didn't come. Like, it was like, bro, you can't come. You know what I mean? So some of these joints can't make it. And again, I would love to have this discussion. For me, this wasn't crazy hard for me to get 12. You know what I mean? So like I told Porsche today, I want to talk about this 20 because, I mean, there are a lot of great albums that came out during 95 to 99, but it wasn't for me that crazy to really have to. And that, for people watching, another thing, you kind of got to also explain why this is making the Bible. Like, why is this album important? Like, I love The Shining by Smith & Wesson. It didn't make my list. Because this isn't about your favorite albums. This is about albums that, again, if we're just passing this on to the next generation, you know, who do we want them to know about? Like, what? So there are going to be a couple of albums on here that I've recently just listened to. There are people on here who I'm not necessarily fans of. But again, this isn't about your favorites. It's not about what you like. It's about passing this on to the next generation. P, ladies first, why don't you give us your first 3 and why? In no particular order. If you have them, if you do, you don't, whatever. Just give me 3 of them.
I'm literally looking at my list of 20 and I'm like, what 3 do I pick? Because it's, anyways.
It's hard. It's hard.
Only Built for Cuban Links for sure. That's my favorite album of all time. And the reason for that is I love the way that Raekwon and Ghostface were able to just collaborate so well. It's so cohesive. It's a mafioso style album. I just think it's such a great kind of, you know, what is the word I'm looking for? Like reflection of how hip hop was at that time. And I feel like Ray is just in his bag. Ghost is dope as hell. That whole album is just no skips. I absolutely love it. And then we've got like Nas featured on there. I think it's just such a complete album. So that's definitely my number 1, and that is in order. Then I'm gonna go with ATLiens, Outkast. The reason for that is, again, coming off of Southern Playalistic, that album was very dope. Still a dope. Outkast had one of the best 3 album runs ever. But ATLiens to me was like a different angle and a different ability that they showcased, and it was pushing the envelope. They integrated different soundscape, and it was such a good reflection of like the South, you know. And I feel like a lot of times East Coast sort of takes over these things because they're just so robust with quality and talent that sometimes we don't, but I know ATLians is a fan favorite. I mean, everyone loves it. And then my third one, I'm going to go with Biggie's Life After Death. And the reason for that is, again, for this one, I personally think that Life After Death is a little bloated. I don't think it's a 5 mic double album. I don't. Big is my goat, but that album to me deserves to be in the Bible of the hip hop Bible because of the impact that it had and the just how integral it was, the time that it dropped. Like, it's just a lot of things surrounding that album that is so important in hip hop culture that, and in the kind of the timeline of hip hop, that I don't think of any hip hop Bible can go without it.
All right, no doubt. First joint I got up, we just talked about it on our last show. Things Fall Apart, The Roots. I feel like this was like the beginning of the soul queering era, of music that was to come. The Dilla swing, the Dilla sound. Of course, Dilla was already there, but I felt like Things Fall Apart, even though he only did Dynamite, I felt like this album, and You Got Me, kind of put the spotlight on that whole Common, Mos Def, that whole crew, which then birthed Soulquarians, and then that Dilla sound went into the whole Touch of Jazz sound, which was Flowetry and Joe Scott and music and that whole Philly music scene. So that's the reason why I'm going with that. Here's a great example of an album that people always trip off that I didn't hear this at the time. I was never a big DMX fan when he came out. I was not a fan at all. I was like, who's this nigga barking? Why is this nigga rhyming over EPMD beats? I was not a fan. I probably have only recently listened to It's Dark and Hell is Hot, probably within the last 3 to 4 years. Off of a challenge, if I'm not sure if it was by Porsche, someone on Twitter just was like, yo, tap in. So again, I'm not a fan. I mean, I do like the album, let me say that, but I'm not like this huge DMX fan. I'm not even going to front like that. But I also believe that needs to be in the hip hop Bible. I believe that album, for just what it did, Rough Riders Anthem, just the magnitude of the songs, the movement. I mean, you see when DMX passed away, just how much love he got. We talk about what happened when Big died. X was maybe not there, but X had a huge send-off. So it was just the impact of his music that was on there. And for my third one, I'll go with another album that I'm not a huge fan of, and this shocks people too. De La Stakes is High. I thought it was a very good album. It's not a 5 mic album in my opinion. I give it a strong 4 and a pass on a good day. But the reason why I'm going with this album is because there was a line drawn in the sand around 97, 98 of us versus them. It was like the backpackers versus the people with money. And if we're talking about the history of hip hop and the Bible, we have to talk about that story. If we're looking at this truly like a Bible, and you have the story of Job and you have the story of Joseph, you have these stories, you can't talk about hip hop without that era of the whole J. Rue, De La versus the Foxy, Biggie, the broke underground rappers versus the rich rappers, and y'all just hating because we got mermaids in the videos and everything like that. So again, not saying it wasn't a dope album. I like Stakes is High, but I've met people who, like, a lot of people have that as their favorite De La album. You know what I mean? And it may be my 3rd or 4th favorite De La album. So again, there's no knock on it, but just a testament of how some of these albums aren't necessarily my favorite. But again, it's not about me. So that's my first 3. Things Fall Apart, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, and Stakes is High by De La. Kel, what you got? And I'm sure all 12 of these will somehow be from Queens. I don't know how you're going to do this. If you can do this, my word is bond. If you can get all 12 of these out from Queens, Kelv, I will treat you to everything that's homecoming. Everything. Parties, food, everything. If you can get all 12 of these out of fucking Queens.
Let me change my list.
Meg, I can't afford you. I can't afford you, Meg. Cal don't drink like that. I can't afford you, Meg. Vega had me tapped out, man. Vega had me selling joints at the bar.
Right.
Like,
Yo, the bottle Ace of Spades.
Exactly.
I was struggling to get the 12 Queens albums, but I'm gonna start with 3. So you already know that. So Mobb Deep, Hell on Earth. Hell on Earth. I might Hell on Earth back and forth between that and Infamous for me, as far as their best album. I think Prodigy, and we've talked about this on the show. Prodigy's that. I mean, he's right up there with the best lyricists in the game at peak Prodigy level, you know. That's just you know and obviously I think too and of course Tupac. I know you love Tupac, but Drop a Gem on him is, I mean, it's like one of my favorite rap songs ever, and you know, just love that album. I got Lost Boys, Legal Drug Money. Lost Boys were like, so in Queens, Lost Boys were like a gang at first. You know, they would go to graduation parties and wreck the graduation party, go to proms and just get on the mic, just snatch the mics out of people's hands, start performing before the album came out.
Now, Cal, let me ask you this for Queens history. We know the D-Seps in Brooklyn. We know the Low Lives in Brooklyn. Supreme Team is in Queens. Supreme Team was, to me, a little bigger than that. But would you put the Lost Boys as like the Queens Decepticons or the Queens Low Lives? Were they that level of a gang? Were they that big?
I would say between them and Boom Bash was another gang called Boom Bash that was wreaking havoc too. So they might be like the Supreme Team is here. I say Boom Bash and Lost Boys are probably about neck and neck.
All right.
So Lost Boys, obviously, you know, Lex Coops, Beamers of the Benz, Renee, you know, I just they have, you know, classic joints. And then I got Nas, It Was Written. I just think that you know, a lot of people like It Was Written better than Illmatic, some people. But I think, you know, that's just another dope album following a back-to-back for Nas. So my first 3.
You know, fam, I didn't think about the Lost Boys album, but I love that pick because I felt like the Lost Boys were kind of like the last entry of hip-hop that kind of made party like fun shit. You know what I mean? Like fun shit that wasn't corny. Like, you know, somebody was just asking me about Herbie Lovebug, and I'm like, yo, you know, he was like, yo, you think he's was a top 5 producer back in the 80s? I'm like, nigga, maybe number 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this dude has a classic album under his belt with Salt and Pepper, and I'm like, all the songs he made were house party anthems. You know what I mean? From Day to Day and Sweet Tea, Kwame, Kid and Play, Salt and Pepper, like house parties, Herb owned house parties. But we got to that point in hip hop where hip hop got real hard. We got in that 40 and Blunt era hip hop. You know what I mean? And by the time the Lost Boys came, they just had this knack of being able to make like, let's coop to Beamers, like, dog. And Morgan, you know, Kel, that shit was the anthem. You know what I mean? So they found this inventive way to make party music, but still making it dope. Kind of like Naughty by Nature. You know what I mean? But I feel like the Lost Boys kind of had that to a lost art. So that's a dope pull with that joint. Beg, what you got up for your first 3, bro?
All right, I'm kind of go by the years. My first 2 from 1995, Only Built for Cuban Links, Raekwon and Ghostface. A lot of what Portia said, like the mafioso thing, but not necessarily mimicking the mob and Italians, kind of retrofitting what you know as mafia to streets and African Americans in particular. Just a lot of swag, like giving yourself a different name, you know, from the name we know you as, like Tony Starks and Johnny Blaze. It started all on that album. Bobby Digital, Nas Escobar, like it all started there. I think Biggie copied. I ain't gonna front. I think he copied with the Frank White shit. Bit off of Nas shit. But just such a dope album where even like the intro, right? It's sort of like it's Get Rich or Die Trying before Get Rich or Die Trying when you listen to that intro, Striving for Perfection. It's like, yo, this it's the last time I'm gonna try, because I don't know. My house just got shot up, like all this stuff. So to me, it was just like a nice album that was thematic, and it's kind of like a still was an introduction to the Wu, but obviously to Raekwon and Ghost. And I just feel like even like the purple tape, even though there were color tapes that existed before them, it just became iconic in so many ways stylistically. Like I remember coming to Morgan, Ice Cream in the club. Like my God, like when the video dropped, oh my God, like all of it was just crazy. So it was a time in hip hop. What'd you say?
You said it was shot in Queens?
Shot in Queens. Coliseum block.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
sure it was.
Yep, you're right. It was a Coliseum. Yeah, but I mean, like, just so many things with that album that makes it a staple in hip hop and almost like mandatory listening. Also, I have out of 1995, Tupac, "Me Against the World," more than the albums that he'll have the next year, because that album before he went to prison is kind of like the quintessential hip hop or artists about to go to prison. They probably make their best material lyrically, musically. I feel like that is probably the truest definition of who Tupac is as an artist on that album, because there's themes, there's odes to hip hop, there's no beef, there's dedications to his moms, there's obviously the conscious records, there's obviously like I said, hip hop records and so forth. And you know, the Death Row days, even though I like those albums, they were kind of fueled by a lot of anger and a lot of, you know, what was going on at the time, unfortunately. But Me Against the World is like pure Tupac to the core, like who he was even when he was on death row. It was just like this music really said a lot about him. And it really also was a time because this man was locked up when this dropped, and this song drops about his mother. He's not in the video, but it touches so many people that you almost feel sorry for the fact that he's in there. You know what I'm saying? Considering who's writing this kind of stuff. So, and you see it on YouTube to this day. People, you know, playing it for their pops or whoever who never heard it. I think Dennis Quaid was talking about it in an interview recently. Because I think they were in a movie together and they became friends or whatever. But he was talking about that song. So I think that album as a whole, with songs like So Many Tears, is important in Tupac's catalog, probably the most important album in his catalog. And my third one will be the Fugees, The Score, for a number of reasons. Like, they put so much into that album that's not just hip hop, that's not just Jersey or East Coast. It's also a lot of Haitian culture within that album that Wyclef would expand upon on the Carnival. In a lot of ways, there's so many different looks, from like Lauryn Hill doing Killing Me Softly in a way that we would never think that it would supplant Roberta Flack, like, you know, in a lot of ways. Even I liked We Staying Alive. I thought that shit was a groove. Maybe I was just in the club too much back then, but I don't know. It was hot. Yeah, just a lot of dopeness there, introducing John Forte, who was dope, working with Diamond D on the album. And I think probably more of a testament to rappers who start out where it could be the end of their career because things don't go their way, and then they become unbelievably successful because they got their formula right without compromising their integrity as artists. So that's my pick.
All right, Eddie, what about you?
All right. Excuse me. The first joint I'm going with The Infamous by Mobb Deep. I'm saying just a classic album, I think. But obviously, I think to make this list, there's a lot of classic albums that didn't make my list. So, you know, this album was just such a complete album. Obviously, you had Havoc production, Havoc and Prodigy, but just hearing Prodigy in that way, the way we didn't hear him on the previous album. The stories they were telling and kind of drawing you into their environment, in Queens. You're getting all these different stories, whether it's you know, Trife Life, you know, meeting up with Chick, up north trip, talk about like, you know, getting locked up upstate, you know, drink away the pain, you know what I'm saying, having the allegorical content, like talk about drinking and stuff, like obviously Shook Ones and Survival of the Fittest and all that, but you know, just a really dope complete album, and I think with those classic records, you know, that there, you know, you gotta include it, you know, because what hip hop Mount Rushmore would there be, or Bible would there be without Shook Ones, you know? So I got that. One that Vegas mentioned, The Score of Fugees. That was 1996, obviously the infamous 95. The Score, that's a really complete album. You know, I think Vegas was definitely touching on it with some of the songs that weren't, you know, completely hip hop, right? And obviously, I think Wyclef covered "No Woman No Cry," no Woman No Cry, Bob Marley joint. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of things going on there, but aside from, you know, obviously they had hit songs, but they made some really good album cuts as well. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of fat on that album, you know, for an album that did have so many hit songs, you know, especially at that time. You know, you could expect, you know, to get some fat. They didn't give you none of that. Obviously, you know, Lauryn Hill, you know, shone on that album. You know, her star was shining brightly on that joint. And the third one for this round, I'm going with Wu-Tang Forever. That was 97. And this album just, you know, was Wu-Tang stepping it up, you know, from their classic debut. I mean, you know, RZA just, I want to say perfected his sound, right? But in a way, just evolved his sound. You know, RZA evolving his sound. You know, a lot of MCs, you know, now you're hearing them, they already had solo albums, you know, so whereas the first album, you're hearing Wu-Tang, you're hearing them all for the first time. Now it feels more like a super group, right? Because you have the Raekwon album, you have the Method Man album, Ghostface album, you know, ODB. Now they're coming back together as more of a super group, and they deliver, you know. Obviously with any double album, there's going to be, you know, a few tracks on there, but for that being a double album, to me, it was very little tracks that skip, maybe Black Shampoo or something like that. But you know, and changed the game with that album. They had the double CD with the Wu Mansion, the enhanced CD joint. You know, that was crazy.
All right, no doubt. P, what you got for your next three out of your 40?
I've got Me Against the World. I know Vegas already said it, but that's going in mine for really the same reasons that Vegas said. I literally echo what Vegas said. I think Pac was just, I think this is one of his most important albums for many reasons that Vegas mentioned. I mean, he was in jail. So anyways, Vegas really summed it up. So that one's going in my book. I got Missy Elliott, Super Duper Fly. And the reason I got that is because to me, and I know a lot of people may agree, Missy is just totally in her bag there. And I think this album is a fantastic reflection of Missy's versatility as an artist. Writing, vocals, rapping, and yes, Timbaland did the production and all of that, but she just made this album that sounded like nothing before it, and it's just very kind of futuristic in a way. The soundscape is unbelievable, and she just knocks it out. She is just such a stellar artist and so talented that I just, definitely Missy. And then I got Pete Rock's Soul Survivor album. And to me, this is a little bit of a cheat album because you've got fantastic production from one of the best producers ever. And then he's compiled this album with like very, very dope MCs at the top of their game. And all of this wrapped up in one album. So for me, I kind of, putting Soul Survivor in here is kind of like showcasing the collaborative ways of the culture, as well as what can be done and how good it can sound when you really pick artists that go so well together against production that is just absolutely stellar. So those are my three.
All right, no doubt. Question: am I the only human being who doesn't see Missy Elliott as an MC?
Maybe.
I mean, she's definitely an MC. I mean, she raps. She does sing. She does sing on occasion, but she definitely raps.
I think for me it was so vague. You see her as an MC, right?
Yeah.
And Kel, you see her as an MC.
I see it as an MC as well. Yeah.
What did the Mets do, Eddie? What did they do?
Peter Alonso hit a 3-run home run. So it's now 3-2 Mets over the Brewers in the top of the ninth inning.
Okay.
So we're about to lose, and Pete Alonso finally did something. His ass wasn't doing shit this whole series. He finally did something.
You're gonna get a new contract there.
I think the reason why, for your answer, Pete, the first time I saw Misty was in a group called Sister, where it was basically like TLC or SWV group. You know what I mean? So I think it's how I saw her at first. And then when I hear her on the Gina Thompson, the remix for The Things You Do with the hee ha hee, I just thought the shit was whack. So it was like, I think it's a mixture of those two things. I think I've just always looked at Missy as just like, Kel, she's like the player who just doesn't have a position. You know, she's like a Scotty, she's like a forward guard or a guard forward, or you know how Scottie Pippen could bring the ball up court.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, so I've never seen her as an MC, and I know it's me. I know I'm the minority in this because I always hear people talk about Missy, and I'm just like, damn, I just never looked at her as an MC. Like, even when she did the Ladies' Night, like, I don't feel like she came on Ladies' Night and dropped any bars. I felt like Missy is like, you know, she's like a busy bee. She's like, you know, like I'm gonna turn the party out MC. Like, she's not a serious, like, lyrical assassin MC like Latifah, Moni Love MC. She's like, I'm the party MC. You know what I mean? So I think that's the thing. Right,
but there you go, right? You said she's a party MC, right? She's not. Yeah. Like, if you ask if she's lyrical, right? If you ask me if is Missy Elliott lyrical, I'll say probably not. Like, she, you know, comparing her to other real lyrical MCs, I wouldn't put her in that category, but she's definitely an MC. I think the way she approaches like her flows and her rhyme schemes and stuff like that, right? It's definitely an MC. You know, she's not overly complex, but she adds a lot to it. Like she has her own uniqueness.
I totally agree. I just think by the time Missy Elliott came out, party MCs were done with. I mean, party MCs for the most part were done with by the time Kool Moe Dee beat Busy Bee back in '83 in Harlem World. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that's what she is. So she's a party MC at a time. That's why I'm like, she's an anomaly, because this is not taking anything away from Missy. She's incredible. Throw her in the Hall of Fame. Incredible arts. I'm in no way not saying Missy isn't dope. I'm just saying I've never seen her as MC, because I'm sitting here like, I'm thinking about the words of Work It, you know, and I'm like, yo, this is Missy makes party music. You know, I think this is why her concert she just went on was so incredible. You know, MC Light doesn't make party music. Latifah didn't make party music.
Right.
The female MCs, when we think of female MCs, did not make party music. You know, Lil' Kim dreams of, you know, or, you know, Queen Bitch. Like, these are not party anthems. They're like, you know, seriously, like, yo, rewind it. Like, whereas Missy is like, and then the videos I think helped a lot. You know what I mean? I think her videos helped her so much because they were so creative. So it was kind of like that. So again, I know I'm the odd man out. But now I understand she's more of a party MC. And that's it. So
and by the way, you mentioned the concert. I had to shout it out because I was there. I was on that tour with her, Busta Rhymes, and Sierra. Missy by far, and it's saying a lot when Busta Rhymes. You know how Busta gets down on his shows. Missy was far and beyond the best on the stage.
That's saying something.
Yeah.
Now, and again, anybody watching, I don't want nobody to be like, killed this. I just never saw her as an MC. And again, the reason why I love doing these shows is because I talk about how, you know what? I apologize, Eddie. The party MC really didn't die with Busy B. It kind of died in the 90s because to me, Kid and Play was that fun rap. Kwame was that fun rap, you know, where you could just rap and have fun and you could be played at parties and stuff like that, you know? So I think that's the thing. Just in my mind, when I think of female MCs, I'm like, these Rod Digger, like, you know, what's Shorty's name? Jean Grey. Like, you know, I'm thinking about MCs like that. And I'm like, you say Jean Grey, Rod Digger, you know, fucking Lauryn Hill and Missy Elliott, you like, which one don't belong? I'm be like, nigga, Missy, what the fuck? Like, the other three, these shorties got bars. Like, but that's not her forte. You know what I mean? It's something else. So, all right. Next up, and some of us are going to say the same albums, and I'm going to have another conversation for us later about that. I got the infamous, I think it just spawned so much with Queens. Like, I mean, I know Nas' Omatic, you know, like, I think set it off, but then, like, Mobb Deep just took it and ran with it, and it just became the Borough, and I'm sure, Kelv, you could attest to this, it was like the Borough was back. Like, when the Infamous dropped, I felt like there is no CNN without Mobb Deep. There is no, like, it started that whole two-man crew, and it just seemed like Queens was just the place to be again. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, to this day, I'll be on Instagram looking at people's feeds, and I'm like, yo, niggas really be going to Queensbridge to take pictures. Like, this shit is like, you know, going to the statue of there. Huh?
Shannon Sharp was there.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, when he saw Jungle. When he niggas saw Jungle.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, like, I be seeing random people. Like, I'm not even talking about those stars. I'm talking about random people I follow on Instagram. Like, yo, I'm in Queensbridge next to the sign. I'm like, yo, niggas is really, you know, and again, all props to Nas, but Mobb Deep, I think, definitely kind of just, it was a 1-2 punch. I'll say that. You know, Omatic was Omatic, but I felt like that was the 1-2 punch. And I always love bounce back albums, man. You know, I feel like, you know, Mobb Deep was kind of dead in the water with that first album, with that Hit 'Em From the Back and, you know, all of that shit. And then to come back with this, you know, even the Peer Pressure remix didn't really do it. But when you come back, even the first Shook ones, not the one everybody knows, but the first Shook ones was crazy. When they sent that us up at 889, we was like, yo, that's them? Like, oh, okay. Like, all right, this is dope. And they had the ill sticker too. It was kind of like the definition of Shook. You know, and it would be like Shook. And this is for people watching. This is back when stickers used to be the shit. I would, my chairs over here to the side, but I still got all my stickers on my chair from college. But so I definitely got the infamous. Again, only built for Cuban links. I mean, what can you say? It's one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. Porsche, I know it's her favorite. I know a lot of people who like this is their favorite album of all time, and want to talk about that a little bit later. So I'm keep going with that. And I'm gonna go with Reasonable Doubt. I'm gonna say Reasonable Doubt with Jay. And we're gonna talk about, because there's a couple of albums in this 4-year span, a couple of albums that people could have gone different ways with, and I see people doing that. You know, Kelv had Hell on Earth. You know, me and Eddie got the Infamous. Kind of like, well, why? What? You know, some people gonna have All Eyes on Me. Some people gonna have Me Against the World. Like, why? Like, there's a couple of albums like that, but I went with Jay's Reasonable Doubt just because I just felt in '96 there was a lot going on, and it's weird because I've heard a lot of people say they really didn't fuck with Reasonable Doubt at first. You know, Veg, I think you said that you really the beats. Was it the beats? Am I quoting it right?
Yeah, I thought the beats were a little lackluster for the time, but
okay,
it kind of grew on me after a while.
Right. So, you know, but I just felt like this was just a huge album at that time with the amount of people that were out. Like, you know, and again, Jay's another one similar to Mobb Deep that's kind of like, this is Jay-Z? Like, you know what I mean? Like, when Roots came in one day, it was like, yo, listen to this. And it's like, In My Lifetime. And I'm like, oh shit, that's the that's that dude from Original Flavor. And I'm like, oh damn, like this nigga ain't doing that no more. He's talking about the bag and the drugs. And like, okay, you know what I mean? So I think Reasonable Doubt was definitely I mean, definitely a classic to me. I mean, I loved it from the rip. I mean, at that time, you know, me and my producer bag, you talk about Ski and Primo on the same album. You know, I feel like you can't go wrong with that. So those are my three, the infamous Only Built for Cuban Leaks, Reasonable Doubt. Kel, what you got up next?
I got more Queens, but I'm gonna skip around for a minute. I'm gonna go Big Pun, Capital Punishment. I mean, obviously I have Fat Joe, but when Pun comes out, I mean, Fat Joe is, you know, he's all right lyrically, but he had Pun come out. I hear You Ain't a Killer. His first joint I ever heard from him. I'm like, yo, who is this? Yo, just set it off. The whole album, classic. Obviously, you got the club anthem, the remix with Joe, and that was just a dope album. I got Juvenile. I don't like Juvenile, but 400 Degrees. I mean, How was everywhere. I mean, even Jay got on the remix. I mean, it was just crazy. It was, you know, obviously people. I think Mass P was already out, right? So yeah, Juvenile comes out, and you know, New Orleans takes off. I think it's the first time I heard Lil Wayne. What was it? Back that thing up. You know, they just hit a bunch of joints, and obviously set off Cash Money to, you know, what throughout today. And then I got Redman, Money Waters. I might be in a minority. I didn't like There's the Dark Side, so to me that was a comeback album for Red. Money Waters, yeah, K Solo again on the first single. You know, this is just a sermon on the production. It's a dope album.
It's funny you say that, bro. I wasn't a big fan of There's Dark Side at first. I've come, it's grown on me, but like,
me too. It's grown on me lately.
I'm literally waiting for like what the album part two, the beats was different, everything. Now I'll never forget. Good News, who's a friend of the show, comes to my crib once. I'm making beats over in Cal, where I live, Kinston Gates. I'm making beats in Kinston Gates.
Are you Bramblewood, right?
Yeah. No, and I'm over there making beats, and Gnu comes in. We're talking about it. I'm like, yo, I don't really fuck with it. It's dark, hell, and hot. And nigga's like, yo, you smoke weed? I was like, nah. He's like, nigga, that's why the fuck you don't fuck with this shit. Like, you smoke weed, nigga, you love this fucking album. And I was like, well, could be. So maybe as life is going on, and I've smoked weed. Now I love the album. So maybe Gnu do everything all along about that. So it's funny. Yeah, Gnu. Yeah. It's fine. I was just talking to him this weekend too. So, but yeah, that always. But so yeah, I feel you. But I've come to love it. What about y'all? Just off topic for one quick sec. Babe, were you a fan of There's the Dark Side? There's the Dark Side? Like from the door?
I did. At first I was a little shocked also because it's so different from his first album, album. But I think it kind of went with the times when it came out, you know, as far as like that whole dark, grimy sounding kind of thing. Then plus, like, I didn't know what the hell happened to K Solo on there because he was the precarious Larry. I'm like, yo, is this the same dude? Like, what is he talking about? So, but that beat was crazy and the song was crazy.
Yeah, P, what about you? Did you like There's a Dark Side, like when it dropped?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And Eddie?
I liked it. I think I prefer Muddy Waters and the first one.
Okay. All right, just checking. Vay, what you got for your next three, bro?
All right, picking up on 96. I got Lil Kim's Hardcore. The first time women empowerment from a sexuality standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Because it didn't alienate dudes. Dudes loved it just as much as women. And to your point, Kill, what you said earlier, it felt like women needed to almost sound and act like men in order to be accepted. Whereas Lil Kim and also Foxy was like, nah, their songs are dope on some hip hop stuff, and you know they're embracing their sexuality, and it's all dope because, I mean, in the past, I mean, I think you could think about it with R&B too, like certain songs that a woman is singing to a man. You know, if you really like the song, you don't care, like, you know, you don't feel like it's you doing that. But like Lil Kim said, "I'm drinking babies," I was like, oh shit. Like, what she say?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the rollout. And so it was like, using the porn theme, not only in the lyrics, but the poster that everybody had.
So you said it, man. That poster was
and I had that poster. Hit the wall. I had that shit up at EAA. Like, and I was like nobody ever came by like, you want to take this shit down, nigga? This is a business. Nobody ever complained about that Lil' Kim poster.
Right, which is crazy. But I think it set off a lot. I feel like today some of that is lost because there still was a sense of skill and lyrical integrity back then that now they really focus on the subject matter of sex without really saying much to begin with. So 97.
Greg, that's a great point, bro, because Nay, probably maybe a year, 2 years ago, Nay listened to hardcore and she was like, yo, I know you better not say nothing about these female MCs I like now. And I'm like, yo, there's a big ass difference between, and I'm like, yo, play one of your people. I'm like, did you hear any skill in that? Now play Queen Bitch. I'm going to show you the bars right here. Like, so I love how you just said that. That's like, it's more emphasis on the sex than it is the lyrics. Whereas I felt with Kim and Foxy, they did a great job of doing both. Because we used to play Queen Bitch at 889 all the time. Like, that was a staple on the show. And when you think about it, I mean, a Lil' Kim album shouldn't be getting played on a college radio station like that. Right, but it was. You know what I mean? So
1997, I had Biggie's Life After Death. I think the first of all, for one reason, it's almost like a blueprint for how to make a double album. Where it feels more like a journey than slothing through a ton of songs, regardless of how much you may like the songs. After a while, you're looking at 20-something songs, you're just gonna start picking what you like. And I feel like they did well with the pacing and the sequencing of the album. I think they did an excellent job of feeding or playing into Biggie's strength, where he was excellent at making party records for those who like party records, but he could still make Kick in the Door, 10 Crack Commandments, and records like that. And he just balanced all of it. The storytelling, the cinematic stuff that went beyond just telling a story, them reenacting the rhymes in the background on stuff like, Niggas Bleed and Somebody Got to Die. Like, that stuff wasn't happening storytelling wasn't happening on that level before Life After Death. So there's so many examples of everything, even collaborators. You got RZA on here, you got Havoc, you got Bone Thugs and Harmony, you got Jay-Z, you got the Lox, who are relatively new with standout verses. You got the Candyman on here also. That was in the club. It was crazy when I
bro, first time I heard that song, I was like, yo, I'm about to put this on my answering machine. I love this shit. This shit is going on the answering machine, man. I'm fucking you tonight. Like, oh my God, why haven't we made this song before all these years? Where have we been?
Right, you would think so. Too Short, right? Introducing you to Carl Thomas, like, just so much packed into one album. And I think also for his career, and obviously, like Portia said, this is right before his death. There's a lot of eerie stuff, a lot of connections, transition for hip hop with him and Tupac's death. But I like the fact that Big was learning how to make other songs also. Like, to me, a standout is like Missing You, right? I was like, Big ain't never make a song like that. That's like a pop song that he made. It's not conscious, but it's really just hating the world without having the whole ready to die, suicidal thoughts, kind of shock value type thing, and just being true about it. Like, yo, let me tell you a couple stories and why I'm missing these people. So I have that from 97, and also from 97, I have Uptown Saturday Night. I think people forget that this album released at a time where it didn't sound like anything. And there was so many reasons for book bag dudes to ignore it, for party dudes to ignore it because of everything that was out. And somehow Lucchini was like, y'all need to pay attention to us. And then when we heard the album, saw the videos, I thought it was just a dope way to, I guess if a person was, like you said, if it's a hip hop Bible and they're looking for examples of hip hop, it's one example of just being you. Like we said, we don't know what they're really talking about. That shit just sounds fly. And, you know, the soundscape is fly and the video is fly. So I think it's a perfect example to say you don't have to conform to one style or another, similar to the Missy Elliott thing, and just do you. And, you know, fans embrace it, you know. So that's my theory.
Yeah. The biggest thing with me in that album, they just took too long to release it. Because I remember just waiting. And it was like, because I want to say Lucchini dropped in probably 95, and the album didn't drop till 97. Like, the whole time I was at the radio station, Cam Blow done came out, took us out to dinner at the Cheesecake Factory. So, I mean, you know, they had the Cooley Hyde, and they had the Lucchini, and then, like, I don't know what was up with Profile, but we, like, that whole year, 96, I'm like, yo, where's the album? And then it kind of just dropped in 97. So, I think it definitely would have gotten much more love if it would have dropped earlier. Eddie, what you got for your next three?
Before I say that, I'll say the Mets won, so it's going to be Mets versus Phillies, so we're going to have some fun with that.
Oh, so the Brewers thing is over?
Yeah, Mets won, so we're about to play y'all. We're about to play the Phillies.
I wish you were closer, good brother. I would meet you up in Philly for a game, man.
I'm saying, man, yeah.
Please,
right,
please. Let your motherfucking Mets people know. Don't do that shit at the baseball stadium. Don't do that. It's a whole different crowd. It's a different. The Sixers are a wine and cheese crowd. Okay, the Phillies and motherfucking Eagles. That's a different crowd of folk that's over there. So yeah, but definitely looking forward to that. So you're right. Hey, we will be talking some shit these upcoming weeks. Like I know anything about baseball, but I will get a dummies for baseball book over the next week. But Eddie, what you got up next, bro?
All right, man. Already mentioned, but only built for Cuban Links, 1995. For all the reasons mentioned, I mean, you know, the concept of this album was just genius. Just the fact that, you know, it was co-starring Ghostface, and I don't think we get this album without Ghostface input, you know. And we saw we saw the follow-up from Raekwon, and not saying he didn't make some good albums after that, but you know, we saw what he did without Ghostface, but we also saw what Ghostface did without Ray, right? So Ghostface just has this level of creativity, with Raekwon being an excellent MC, but I think that energy that Ghostface brought, like, just made the album what it was, right? The concepts, I mean, just, you know, the mafioso, how you know, the skits and interludes all fit in, and obviously, you know, all the classic records, we don't have to go through it, and I think it probably features every member, if not every member of the Wu, damn near every member of the Wu. So that was nice as well. So, you know, can't have 95 without that joint. Now going to 96, it was written by Nas. Obviously we know Illmatic, classic. I mean, shit, everyone on Twitter tells us every single day how much of a holy grail classic that album is. We know, but Nas went up a level on It Was Written, and I think, you know, what we have to appreciate that growth. Like, you know, he could have very well rested on his laurels, you know, from that album Illmatic, but he went a different direction. He didn't make the same album again. He made songs that, you know, like I Gave You Power and Black Girl Lost. Even if I Rule the World, he made these conceptual songs. You know, he challenged his pen, he continued to challenge his pen, and obviously he evolved as an MC and the sound with the track masters. Just outstanding album. And the last one I'm going with, we just talked about it, is Life After Death. You know, Vegas just talked about that album so eloquently, but yeah, man, Biggie just use every tool in the toolbox for that album. You know, he showed that, and you know, I think he showed different sides of him on Ready to Die, but even more so on this, he showed, you know, being able to execute different types of songs, being able to execute different types of flows with, you know, different rappers. Obviously, Notorious Thugs with Bone Thugs, you know, rapping with Too Short, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, man. Then you know, I think what really stood out to me on this album was just how precise he was with his storytelling. I mean, I think of every, you know, my favorite joints are, you know, Long Kiss Goodnight, and I Got a Story to Tell, and My Downfall, and you know, them joints, like he just, you know, masterful storytelling.
All right, no doubt. Now let me ask you this. Porsche hit me today saying how hard this was. Kill, I got 20 albums. You know, can I get some extras over here? How was this for everybody else? Kel, was this extremely hard for you to get 12, or like, did you know, how was it for you?
It was difficult because, like you said, you think about the Bible, you want things to cover a wide range, and like I hit you, I was like, I'm coming with 12 Queens albums, like, and I was struggling. I was like, yeah, I can't do that. So I was like, let me break it out regionally a little bit. Then I was going over a little bit. I was like, oh, you know what? There are some impactful albums from other places too, other than Queens. So let me branch out a little bit. But it was difficult a little bit in the beginning.
All right, Vay, what about you?
What was the question? Was it difficult?
Was it difficult to put together, to narrow, you know, 95 to 99 down to 12? Like, Porsche has 20 albums that she's pulling from right now, that she's just having to, you know, grab at. You know, was it hard for you to come up with 12?
Porsche's like the little kid when you like, all right, now take 2 cookies, the whole fucking pack, and you're like, yo, I just told you 2. It was because initially I had 15, and then I kind of had to look at those 15 and say, okay, well, why are 12 of these important? And then I just had to eliminate those that I thought I couldn't speak as well on as others, even though, you know, I love all of them, and I think there are a lot of classics in there. But yeah, it is difficult because this is, like I said, I did a show on 95 recently, my top 5 albums of 95, and I talked about 95 alone just being difficult to narrow down to 5 because there's so many classics, and it's like, well, there's no wrong answers. So I feel like when you go to 99, I mean, 96 by itself is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things where you just gotta cut the fat, you gotta edit. So,
what about you, Eddie?
Yeah, for me, it was tough for certain ones, but I already knew I had to have at least, you know, I wanted to make it even. I didn't want it to be too 95 heavy, although 95 and 96 I have 3 each, because those are the years I think that, you know, you could just go into a whole rabbit hole with those years, right? And then 97, 98, 99 I got 2 albums each, and I have honorable mentions. I have 8 honorable, but you know, really how I approached it is, you know, where there was a debate between 2 albums, I tried to focus more on the impact, right? So there was a 96 album that I had on there. I had a different one initially, and then when I was writing my honorable mentions, I was like, damn, but this one is more impactful. This one should make my list over this other one. So
okay. It's fine. I think this was the easiest one for me so far from the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. Not because it's not a lot of great albums that I love on here, but it's kind of just like, when I'm thinking like, what spawned from this? Like, everybody knows I love One Day It'll All Make Sense by Common, but I'm kind of like, I don't know if it like spawned anything. Like, I don't know if this has to go in there. I'm like, everybody knows I love Jewels by OC, but the same thing. I'm like, so for me, like, maybe it was just these 4 years, there was a lot of great albums, but maybe for me, a lot of great albums that I didn't see kind of like doing a family tree on, like, this is what spawned from The War Report, another album that I love, but I'm like, it's not making the Bible. Moment of Truth, I love it. I'm like, it's not making the Bible. Like, so I think that's maybe what it was, because the last round was hard as fuck. Like, that 90 to 94, that was like hard. Like, this one to me, I'm like, then again, it's no knock on these albums, because I'm leaving out a lot of Five Mike albums here, but I'm just Liquid Swords. I'm like, I'm looking at it, but I just don't see it connecting to what, like, this has to be there, you know? Like, and then I felt like I kind of had to just grab pieces of the Wu, like, because you could have put in Wu-Tang Forever, Only Built for Cuban Links, Liquid Swords, and Iron Man, you know? And I'm like, okay, well, I just need the Wu represented somehow over here. So, you know, like, I'm gonna just pull this one to keep this one going. So just was interested in that. P, what you got up for your next three?
Okay, so for my next three, my first one is It Was Written. It's that's my favorite Nas album. Yes, over Illmatic, I know. But
Question:
I feel like,
do you think it's his best album?
Because
I always ask this, because if I want to hear Nas, I always go to It Was Written. I never go to Illmatic. But I'm like, does that mean it's better than Illmatic, or does that just mean I like it better than Illmatic? And I don't know the answer to it myself.
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that either. But to me, It Was Written is the best Nas album to me, and then Stillmatic, and then Illmatic. That's how I rank them. So whenever I want to hear Nas, that's the order I'll listen to. I'll start off with It Was Written, then Stillmatic, then Illmatic. But Eddie already touched on It Was Written. I mean, it's got my favorite quote in the entirety of the universe in that album. I always quote it. I quote it at work. I quote it all over the place. And I love now that when people see the quote somewhere, they'll always tag me in it or send it to me or DM it to me. And I love it.
Porsche, can you please let them know what the quote is?
I think everybody knows, but it's a thug changes, love changes, and best friends become strangers. And I just think
at work.
Yeah, Porsche sells coffee and she be fucking niggas up. Like, yo, nigga.
Like a
we was buying cups from you, nigga, but let me explain something to you, my nigga. Yo, a thug changes, love changes, best friends become strangers, nigga. We buying cups from over here now, my nigga.
It's very fitting in the business corporate world. But anyways, I do integrate that in my conversations with my clients. But in any case, It Was Written for sure in the Bible for that reason. I mean, lyrically, I just think the whole track list is very mature and it's very well written and put together and sequenced. And I think it's a very good representation of Nas's storytelling and talent and lyrical ability and just quotables and all of that. So It Was Written for sure. And then these ones I'll explain. I got Collage by Bahamadia and Hardcore by Lil' Kim as my 2 and number 3. And the reason for that is I love the female representation. I feel like sometimes that gets sort of missed in the kind of mix of all the heavy hitting albums out there. But these ladies, I mean, they are dope. And you talked about Hardcore. That's one of my favorite albums of all time. But I feel like Collage is like an opposite to that album. And I think that kind of shows the range and versatility of not only MCing, of content, but also of styles and rapping ability and all of that kind of good stuff. So when both of those albums, I feel like, are in something like a hip hop Bible and you're listening to it that way, you kind of see like, oh, you know, Bahamadia is very Guru, you know, esque, like being mentored by Guru, and Kim is very big, and they're very, very different. And this one is very sexually driven and this one is very not. And so it just shows that they're both powerhouse MCs, but with vastly different albums. And I think that that's just such a great representation of hip hop in general. So that's why I got those in there.
All right, no doubt, no doubt. I got up. Let's go with Life After Death. A lot for what everybody always said. And to me, it's kind of like the blueprint of how to do street and crossover. I posted today, I don't know how this video came across my timeline. Nightmare on My Street by Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And I was like, this is the wackest shit ever. Shit was horrible. Video was horrible. Then I went on to watch I Think I Could Beat Mike Tyson by Jazzy Jeff. And I was like, this shit is horrible. This fucking shit is horrible. Truth be told, I was only a fan of Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince for the first album. Like, I capped for them for that album. Second album, the only thing I like on there is Brand New Funk. Everything else, Parents Just Don't Understand, all this other shit, couldn't stand it. And we're talking about on the timeline about how, like, you know, I'm like, I don't blame Jeff and Will, because nobody really knew how to cross over. Remind me of the Fat Boys. If you're old enough, then people watching will remember, you know, the Fat Boys had a song with Chubby fucking Checker. Like, stop it, y'all. They had a song called Wipeout. They had a song, no, that was the twist. They had the song with the Beach Boys called Wipeout. It was just, this is just bad. And I understood at that time, nobody kind of knew what to do. It's like, oh, they're kind of fat, they're fat. It's just all bad. Like, it's like fat people are funny, so let's make y'all funny. So let's make a funny song with Chubby Checker and have y'all niggas doing a twist. And it was just like, yo, what is this shit? Like, who's playing this? Like, where's this coming across? Like, is Mr. Magic playing this shit? Like, is Chuck Chill Out playing this shit? Like, who is playing the fucking twist? You know what I mean? Like, whose idea? Let's double down on the twist with the fucking Beach Boys. The Beach Boys? Like, not even the fucking Monkeys. At least we grew up watching the Monkeys. You know what I mean? I know the motherfuckers. I don't know the Beach Boys. You know what I mean? So I think Big, and again, all props to Heavy D, because he really truly was the blueprint on how to do this. I think the difference between Heavy and Big was Heavy really didn't get that respect in the streets. Big did. Big was able to make, like Big said, kick in the door, 10 crack commandments, and then turn around and make more money. Like, even though Hev could do You Can See What I Can See and Who's the Man and all those things, those were cool, but I don't think Hev was ever looked at as, like, I can see it now from people. Like, he wasn't looked at as that guy. Whereas Big was able to do that, and that was the blueprint that everybody from Nas to Jay-Z and everybody wanted to try to copy to do. And I felt like Life After Death, like, it was perfected. It started on Ready to Die, but it was perfected by, you know, Life After Death. Wu-Tang Forever, another album I'm not super in love with, but definitely it's got to go in the Bible. You know what I mean? And then the last one I'm going to go with is Aquemini, which I personally think for me is a top 20 hip-hop album ever. Like, ever. Like, I love Aquemini. I just think it just broke for me so many barriers, like, for just what hip-hop can sound like, what it could be like. Vega, I remember playing Spodioti on 88.9, and that's not an 88.9 formatted song for college radio, but it was just so dope. You know, I remember getting to 12 Rosa Parks and playing that shit, like, just loving it. Like, you know what I mean? So I just felt like Aquemini, you know, if we double down on the South got something to say, I mean, I think they said a lot during these two eras, you know, with that too. Kel, what you got for your next three, bro?
I'm gonna jump to 1999 for the next three. I got Eminem. So the people in your timeline the stands will be happy that got.
Kel, you know what? You're keeping a lot of people happy today, and I'm going to at the end of this talk about, because I think a huge piece of this, and I want to say this. I apologize to the down south folk. You know what I mean? Because a lot, I don't know what else we got left. We only got about 6 left. I don't know how many of us are gonna say some 8-ball and MJG or some fucking, you know.
I started putting them on the list. I don't have it, but I started.
Right.
Yeah.
But I want also people to truly understand that, you know, Neltron was on the show and he was saying how Murder Music was his first Mobb Deep album he got because they weren't playing Mobb Deep in New Orleans on the radio like that. And I was kind of blown away, like, word? Like, I thought it was only up north radio, because you always hear about, oh, well, like New York, motherfuckers ain't play our music. And da-da-da-da. I had no idea that was going on down south. You know, so for people watching who may not be from the East Coast, it's not an East Coast bias. It's just a lot for me. I'll speak for me. And I would love to have other people speak if they feel led to. That the shit just wasn't speaking to me. Like, I didn't turn on Rap City. You know what? I don't even know if I fucking was watching Rap City by the time we went to college, Kel. Like, I don't even think we was on the bridge. We was outside. Like, I don't remember ever coming home from class being like, fuck this bridge and these women. I gotta go watch Rap City. That was high school. You know what I mean? So I think by the time I got to college, like, so maybe I wasn't seeing it as much. I'm sure videos were showing it, but so I don't want it to feel like it's any East Coast bias, at least for me, but it's just, I didn't hear a lot of that shit. You know what I mean? A lot of that shit just, bling, bling, just, you put that shit next to Come Clean, and it's like, nigga, I'm not listening to that shit. You know what I mean? And that's no diss, but, I just wanted to say that, so I appreciate you saying Juvenile, because there is going to be a lot of people pissed off, because they're going to be like, so they're just saying shit from the South in y'all Bibles, huh? Just nothing. We ain't do nothing. And they're going to say, Kill, shut the fuck up with your Outcast, because that's your always big joker. They're like, Outcast on the list? Like, no, nigga. Like, nobody else, so... I'm apologizing now, y'all, but you gotta understand it's not personal. I was just, my homegirls leaving the gig. We was playing go-go. We playing Uno. I'm listening to go-go. And I'm like, yo, if this was 20 years ago, I'd be like, turn this fucking noise off. Sound like they banging on pots and pans. But from living out here in D.C. and going to D.C. barbershop, I'm in there playing Uno, bopping just like if I was from PG. So certain places I feel like you just have to be. And my ear just was not to the video stations playing that. The only thing I was listening to from 92 to 99 or 2000 when I left EAA was EAA. That's all I was listening to. I wasn't listening to 92Q. I wasn't looking at Rap City. If the shit was not being played on 889, I did not fucking hear it. So that's why I missed a lot of this Juvenile Wayne stuff. So I just want to apologize to people. You know what? I apologize, and I mean this. I'm not even joking. I need to have a Southern person come on for, one of these shows to represent that. Because I feel like that's unfair to a whole, section of the United States, and a section that they should be represented here and they're not. So I'm gonna do better. But Kelv, I appreciate you for shouting out Juvenile, because I don't look like Vegas and Eddie got anybody else coming up. Okay, they got one. They I knew was saving.
I have a point too.
Okay, what you got?
To your point about like what Neltron said, because he's not the first person I heard say that from somewhere else, and saying they didn't really play this one, or they didn't really play Nas or Jay-Z. I think especially people on Twitter and you fucking internet educated niggas can't stand y'all. This is how much they don't know, Kill. That we all know. Program directors, you play the music of the town. If the town is feeling Mobb Deep, you're going to play it. It's not, Queens, New York? No. South? No. Because there was plenty of times where it was like Juvenile's High. It wasn't just the Jay-Z remix. Like, people were starting to fuck with it. People starting to fuck with Master P. So even though it didn't dominate the radio, as a program director or music director, you have to play. That's like communications 101, audience engagement 101. Like, you play what they want. You test these records. And obviously there's going to be, people are going to be attracted more to the people where they're from. But at the same time, people like everything, and if you're getting a lot of traction in the South with from 50, 50 Cent or whatever, you're gonna play it. It's not really. It's only these internet niggas and these niggas who wasn't outside who kind of drum up this whole idea of what a whole city or whole coast. And the coast to them is really just niggas with fucking fitteds on that are big like us.
It's really just New York. Like, that's the thing. Nobody has a problem with Philly or Jersey. It's really just New York. New York is the whole entire East Coast.
Right,
like,
it's the whole East Coast. So I think a lot gets missed when people make those assumptions. That's why I always say, like, yo, like I bought Cocaine's album and I didn't even know who he was. I didn't know where he was from. I just bought it because I saw in the source that it was dope. Come to find out, he was from Cali and all of that, and I fucked with it. It wasn't where they from? Nah, fuck that. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know.
And that's a great point, Vay, because I always tell people East Coast bias would be just that. Yo, Kill, check out my music. Where you from? Long Beach. Nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? That would be the bias. If you play me Tone Loc's music and I don't like Tone Loc's music, that doesn't mean I'm fucking biased. Yeah, I just don't like his music, and that should be legal. There are people from Philly. Somebody asked me about Jedi Mind Tricks Today. I was like, yo, keep it a buck with you. I never heard that shit. I don't really know no Vinnie Paz shit like that. And that's my fucking city. Like, you just have things you like, you have things you don't. There's a rack of down south artists I like. There's a rack of down south artists I don't. And it's a rack of people who I don't hear. Like, what was that song? Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars. Somebody was like, Kill, you've never heard that song. Like, years ago. Like, of course I've heard it now. But they was like, how could you not hear a song? I said, maybe you don't understand. I get in my car and I listen to my mixtapes. Then I come home and I watch ESPN. That is the mixture of what goes into my ears. So I don't watch ABC, NBC. Maybe he has commercials over there. If it's not a commercial on ESPN and it's not on my mixtapes, I don't hear it. So it's not, it may sound crazy, but it's really not crazy when you think about that's my world right there. That's the only stuff that goes into my ears. And I think Kelv even just saying that, I realized that Rap City probably did play a lot of that down south shit, which is why people who were probably in high school when we were in college fuck with it more, because that was me in high school, running home from school to listen to Rap City. By the time I got to Morgan, ain't nobody fucking stopping what they doing on campus to go watch Rap City. So I missed that whole span. It was the same thing I was talking to Vegas one day, and I'm like, yo, Vegas and Tones talk about being in the club all the time. Why the fuck wasn't I in the club? Oh, I was doing 889 every Friday night from midnight to 5. So from 93 to fucking the time I graduated, all those parties I didn't go to because I was on the radio. So that's why I don't have that mixture of, oh man, that song was crazy in the club. I'm like, yo, fuck, why don't I have? Because I was doing a radio station. So it's always about what you take in. And just at that time, all I was taking in was, and it's not just East Coast hip hop, because Vay will tell you, Titan would play Dilated Peoples. That's the first time I heard Loop Pack. So it's not like all 889 did was play East Coast. No, I wouldn't have heard Loop Pack or Madlib or none of that shit without the DJs. But so Eddie, I don't know. What about you, bro? Were you I know you were in the military, so again, you have a different testimony as far as dealing with that.
One thing I was going to mention is that once you do a little travel, once you start to understand the environments, right? I've been in LA for so long, I understand why West Coast hip hop is the way it is. You know, it's a lot of driving, it's very spread out. Like in New York, growing up in New York, I was just taking the subway everywhere mostly, unless I was going somewhere with my parents, right? But I was getting around on the subway, you know, like the New York boom bap hip hop was conducive to subway riding. Like you just kind of felt, you know, the griminess of the subway or walking down the streets, you know, that's the feeling you got, you know. LA being all spread out and driving everywhere, cruising it, like you get that, you understand it, you know. When I was in the military, I knew a lot of guys that were from the South, and like, you know, the Cash Money stuff, the Master P, you know, I'd tell you what, for a little bit that shit started to grow on me, you know what I'm saying? Even like I talk about you know, the whole big pimping thing with UGK, how, you know what I'm saying, it was a debate who had the best verse. I'm like, is this even a debate? Jay-Z. But everyone's like, nah, it was Bun, nah, it was Pimp C, and hardly anyone was mentioning Jay. I'm like, goddamn, you know. So perspective completely different.
Pete, what about you? You're from Vancouver. You get a little bit of everything. I feel like certain people in certain places, Tone being in North Carolina, always talks about where he was. He kind of got a little bit of everything. Philly, trust me, did not get a little bit of everything. We got all East Coast hip hop, and not all, because again, we come home from Rap City and see the DOC. Like, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like, I feel like it's this they make West Coast people make it sound like nobody got no fucking play. Like, nigga, how did I fall in love with Souls of Mischief? How did I fucking hear Dell's first album? How did I fall in love with, and like this shit just, I mean, certain things got played and certain shit didn't. So again, I love Vegas bringing up program directors, because nobody who is just a civilian in this game really understands that. You know, before I started doing radio, I'm like, payola, what could this be? You know, pay me to play a record? Like, I thought we just played what people liked. It's like, so people who don't know. You know what I mean? So, but Porsche, what about you? Growing up in Vancouver, did you kind of get a little bit of everything?
Yeah, definitely got a little bit of everything. But I always leaned more towards the East Coast, just because I don't think I have a bias, though I've never been told I'm biased in any regard, because we're very we're West Coast. We're literally on the Pacific Ocean, so we're very influenced by California and the West Coast in general. But of course, like, hip hop being New York being the birthplace of hip hop, no matter what, it's integrated into whatever coast you're in, because a lot of music is coming out of the East, you know what I mean? So I don't feel like I have a bias or anything, and I feel like I got a little bit of everything and really equal parts of everything except for the South. I will say that we ended up getting like Outkast and Goody Mob and, you know, Juvenile and all them when they dropped, but a little later. It wasn't like right away, whereas the other stuff, it was literally right away, for the most part. So yeah, except the South was a little bit weird with the timeline, but the East and West, I feel like, was equal.
All right, no doubt. Cal, what you got up for your next three?
So I got Eminem. Obviously, you hear, you know, his impact is, you know, not the biggest Eminem fan, but you can't deny his impact.
Now, this is Slim Shady?
This is Slim Shady. Yep.
Slim Shady.
1999. Yep, Slim Shady. Yeah, My Name Is, and Stan, and all this stuff, you know. So, and obviously, you know, it was nice. He could rhyme. But, you know, and obviously the phenomenon he becomes after that. I got Fairmont Internal Affairs. That's my number two. You know, coming up Organized, you know, him doing a solo, I was like, you know where it was going to go. But I think, you know, you talked about a little bit with the Backpackers. This, you know, now you're talking about Spit Kickers, obviously the Sound Bombing, you know, coming on after that. But obviously Simon Says, and I think also too, is impactful because of sampling. You think about, I just went to Paramount's 25th anniversary show in New York 2 months ago, and he talked about Simon Says, you know, how they had to do the vinyl release, and you know how for years he couldn't have it. You know, they couldn't play the song. He couldn't, you know, have it as a release. So, you know, the sampling behind that, and obviously it's an enormous record, but you know, he couldn't even profit off of that for a long time. And obviously working with MOP on the album, and Diamond D and Dilla, you know, so you know, it's a lovely album. Then I got Mos Def, Black on Both Sides. Again, almost in the same vein as Pharaoh. You see a more conscious, lyrical. Obviously, Mos is one of the best DJs, and just the lyrical content and the diversity of the album, singing. You know, just Only Says one of my favorite records. I love that joint. And yeah, this Mos just, you know, just ushering that whole different. You know, now you have, like you said, there's no more 40s and blunts. I mean, there's still 40s and blunts, but you have a whole different angle to focus on the hip hop.
Yeah, you're coming into the incense era. Incense.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oils. It's the incense and oils era. No doubt. Hey, what you got for your next three, bro?
All right, 97. I also have Missy Elliott, Super Duper Fly. For a lot of the same reasons Portia mentioned. I just think her and Timbaland, to a certain extent, they were drawing outside the lines, and that's hip hop, to try to be creative and different from your peers instead of copying the formula and people having to decide on whether they like your version versus another version versus another version. They just did things very differently with her rhyming and her songs, and obviously the connection with Hype Williams and the creative videos to kind of match that sound. It just all you know, it's important in a lot of ways because it clearly became Lil Wayne style. He said this recently. He said it back in the Hot Boy days, that his flow, his whole, everything about him was heavily influenced by Missy Elliott. And I think that says a lot considering the success he had. 98, I also have Aquemini. I think with AT-Aliens, you know, it was a change for Outkast and it was a dope album, but I think Aquemini is when they planted the flag officially as being a very dope group that you're never going to know what they're going to give you. I think, what's the first track? Maybe it's not the first track. The Gangsta Joy. What's the title of that tune again?
What?
We got Be Strong, Hold On, Be Strong, then Return to the G.
Return to the G. Like, just the rapping on there, like on like literally a hardcore record that's, I felt like was boom bap, but not in a traditional sense as far as the beats. But to your point, like you said, it was so many different sounds for hip hop. It was unpredictable in a good way. You know what I mean? And it showed range for them as MCs musically. Again, what could be considered on a hip hop album, the collaboration with Raekwon, which, you know, I didn't even see. I didn't even know what that was going to sound like. For a number of those reasons. And also from 98, I also have DMX, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. Hill, I was the same way as you. I remember that summer working in Brooklyn in a sneaker store or whatever, and I remember arguing with this dude in the back like all day because, you know, Pun was out and all of this, and he like, nah, you need to get with that X. And I'm like, I'm not listening to no barking ass niggas. Like, trash. Like, what are you talking about? He's just barking. And, you know, the more I would listen to it, I got it. And I think also what makes it important is because after Tupac and Biggie died, it kind of seemed like, what's hip hop after that? Like, we know the guys that were there, and we expect Jay-Z to do what he does. We expect Nas to keep going. But what's new, and I know with X, that year in particular, both of those albums went platinum that he dropped in the same year for a debut artist. It's crazy. And also, it meant that commercially, hardcore rap could be just as successful than, you know, making a party record. And that was the difference. And a lot of his peers like Jay-Z would say that, like, yo, he brought hardcore hip hop back to the mainstream. So you no longer really had to, oh, I'm gonna do the shiny suit or, you know, this old 80s record and blah blah blah. When you got somebody like DMX is straight up hardcore, going platinum, releasing 2 albums in the same year. And I think he also showed that you didn't have to be super lyrical. You just had to be relatable in some ways and have a certain energy that got people up. And it's just so, when, like you said, when he passed, even before then, you could see how many people grew up with him from all walks of life. So I feel like that first album is important for a lot of those reasons. And then also, a nigga that says, I hit you in the head, you won't feel shit. I'm like, that's not a bar, but goddamn. Like, did you write that down? Like, so I just thought he was crazy.
Let me ask you a question, Big. Do you feel, I've heard people always say, you know, Big dies, Jay inherits his crowd. You know, I often hear people say DMX or Pac, DMX or Pac. Do you feel like DMX kind of, because one of the thing I did love about DMX was I loved his authenticity. Like, I knew DMX was who he was, you know. So when I'm hearing stories about him robbing niggas with just a pit bull, I'm like, yeah, I kind of felt he was that nigga. You know what I mean? It's why I love Pac. I loved his authenticity, you know, of who he was at that time. Do you feel like X kind of inherited Pac's crowd?
Probably, but I don't think you can even compare them. Anybody who felt that way, right? Be like, oh, we got Pac back, because it was just a ball head and no shirt, right? Like,
you know, sometimes, Meg, in life, that's all you fucking need. That's all you need. Right. I mean, you know, Puff tried it with Shine. Like, hey, I just need a nigga who sound like Big. Like, right. You know, I don't care if he look like Big. Like, we got the new Biggie. He sounds just like him. We gotta do a show on that, because I honestly don't kind of really remember that, because that's why I never heard Shine's first album, because of how it was pitched. Like, oh, we found this dude in the barbershop in Brooklyn who sounded like Biggie. Here, he signed. Here, take this. You know, and it was just like, nah, nigga, I don't want to take that. Like, you know what I mean? But I was just wondering, because I've heard that debated a lot out here on Drink Champs. You know, like X, Pac, or you know, things like that. So I just never thought about that.
Like this. It's hard to say there's similarities, because I think Pac was kind of unmatched when you're looking at these guys who being compared to him when it came to the conscious music. DMX, Ja Rule, they didn't make that kind of music at all. It was just really the, you know, occasional bandana, no shirt. But I think DMX's sincerity, especially having prayers on his album and stuff like that, that's probably what made them feel like, not that Tupac did anything like that, but it's the.
But it was that. It was that. Right? That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Right. Like you felt like you knew him on a level much deeper than the music. So.
Right. All right. Cool. Hey, what you got for your next one?
You in the fucking head. He gonna
right. You gonna feel nothing. Right. Right. Hey, what you got up next for your 3?
All right, man. Going with Liquid Swords. Shit. I know my list has a lot of Wu-Tang, man, but so what? Yo, like Liquid Swords, you know, the thing about this album is that yes, it came out the same year as Cuban Links. It's just such a different album, you know? That was the beauty of a lot of these Wu-Tang solo albums, right? You know, you get albums that, yeah, you know, was feature a lot of the Wu members. They didn't sound alike. Even on the production side, you know, what RZA was giving Jizza, you know, like the Fourth Chamber and Shadow Boxing and the title track Liquid Swords didn't sound like the beats that he gave to Raekwon and Ghost. You know what I'm saying? Like he was tailor making it, and it's just the way Jizza crafted that, the storytelling, you know, it as you know, with Ray and Ghost were in the story, right? Cuban Links, they were part of the story. Jizza was narrating his story, right? He was narrating the story, so it's completely different angle. And obviously his approach to his lyricism and bars is just so precise, and yeah, that's all I'll say about that one, man. Classic album there. And I'm going with Aquemini, 98, man. I remember this album being in the Marines, and this was the album that everyone could agree on, man. It's like, no matter you were from East Coast, West Coast, South, Midwest, like everyone was rocking with this album, you know. And what Outkast did on this, I think Vegas already talked about it. Like it was just so different from previous, from ATLiens, but such a departure from Southern Playalistic, right? So you could kind of see the progression, but if you just look at Southern Playalistic and Aquemini, you're like, is this the same group? You know, they just were so eclectic on that album. You know, songs like Spody Odie, Rosa Parks, and they had a joint with Raekwon on there. They had even though Slick Rick wasn't on the album version, but the Art of Storytelling, still a very dope track. You know what I'm saying? They just got busy on that album and were very eclectic in how they did it. And Things Fall Apart. I know I talked about this album when we did the 99 show. But yeah, man, I think this album really ushered in a movement. It was kind of the spark of the whole OK Player thing. I think this was a Soulquarians album. As much of it being a Roots album, it was a Soulquarians album. The musicality on it, you know what I'm saying? The approach, man, just it's a masterpiece. To me, it's the Roots masterpiece. You can argue whether Philadelphia Half-Life is a better hip hop album. And everyone has their preference, but I think as far as stepping outside the box and making that masterpiece, I think Things Fall Apart is their masterpiece album.
No doubt. P, you're down to your last three.
I know.
I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to sneak another 7 in here with these 3.
I'm not.
Are you going to say them real fast? Are you going to what's the technique that you're going to try to sneak these in?
Yeah, my next 3 are going to be Aquemini and Vegas, and Eddie already mentioned it, so I won't go into detail, but really for the same reasons, imperative for a hip-hop Bible. I'm going to put Philadelphia Half-Life in mine, and that to me is the best Roots album. It's also my favorite Roots album, and really it's the content. They're just very different. This album is very different from previous Roots albums, and I think it's a really good showcase of Thought and Malik B's lyrical abilities and also delivery, and just the whole album is very, I don't know, it's very, very lyrical, and it's just very engaging in that way, and I just love it. And then I'm going to go with Black on Both Sides. Kelv already touched on this, but Mos Def, is super conscious rapper. Again, I feel like that definitely belongs in a Bible because it shows that aspect. There aren't many conscious rappers out there and who do conscious rapping well, and Mos Def knocks it out. Like that is his bag. So for me, I just think that album is a 5 mic, like absolute necessity to listen to, and it also adds that, again, more of that landscape of hip hop culture and how versatile the emceeing ability is and how different the approaches are. So those are my last 3.
All right. My last 3, Porsche, you challenged me to listen to this album a couple of years ago. It's Pac, All Eyes on Me.
Yay.
So definitely had to check that out. Very dope album at the time. You know me, you know. It was the East versus the West, and I was riding with Biggie. You couldn't tell me Biggie ain't grow up next to me in Philly. It's like, fuck Pac, fuck that nigga. If he got beef with Big, I ain't fucking with that nigga. So I had not listened to any Pac, but Porsche challenged me to listen to it. Very dope album. And again, it's kind of like, I wish I wasn't trapped like that sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't watch Kobe play a lot of ball because I hated Kobe Bryant as a basketball player, but how much great basketball did I miss by not watching him play? You know what I mean? So, I'm trying not to make that mistake anymore, but it's like, how much great hip hop did I miss because I was like, fuck the West Coast, because we rhyme with Big. You know what I mean? So definitely All Eyes on Me. The score, I remember when this dropped in 96, and I was my connect at Sony was this cat Manny. We would talk all the time, and he was just like, yo, Kill, this is like, we just dropped this at the perfect time. Like, it really wasn't any marketing genius, like we're gonna drive. It's like we just dropped it at a time where I guess people kind of were just open to hear something new, you know, because they were dropping it at a time where it is mafioso rap, where it is this, but maybe it was at a point where people were kind of tired of that and needed a break from that. You know what I mean? But we talked about that album all the time. I love the fact that they put Young Z, Rod Digger on there. You know what I mean? And gave them time to shine with Cowboys. Just an incredible album. And I'll end my list off with, you know, it was written by Nas. I've said this a billion times. I feel like the album gets hated on, and I never use the word hate, but I will use that word with this album because it said produced by Trackmasters, man. You know what I mean? I have friends who are like, yo, that album is trash. And I'm like, yo, come. How? Like, it's trash? Like, stop, man. Like, stop. Like, you can't call shootouts, watch them niggas, fucking The Message, I Gave You Power, you know, what's that shit with Mob at the end? Like, the only song I don't listen to is like maybe fucking If I Ruled the World and Nas Is Coming, you know. Is that the joint Dre did?
Yeah, Nas Is Coming.
Yeah. I mean, I can stomach that. You know, I can almost stomach If I Ruled the World now, you know, but there's no way that album is fucking trash. And I promise you, I swear to you on every record, Low and fucking Jordan I own, that album said, produced by Q-Tip, Pete Rock, Premier, and LES, and Havoc with all those same beats, this shit would be a 5-mark classic. So, and like Porsche said earlier, whenever I want to hear Nas, I go to that. It's funny, whenever I want to hear Jay, I go to American Gangster. I don't go to Reasonable Doubt. I go to American Gangster first. You know, so those are my last three. Kel, what you got for your last three, bro?
My last three, I got Back to Queens. One more time, Back to Queens. Murder
at
Music.
Least but here's the good part. At least I do not have to pay for you this whole fucking.
No, you don't have to pay for me to homecoming. Right.
That's a good thing. Because I was scared. Because Kelvin, if anybody can find a way to get 12 Queens niggas into a list, it's that man right there.
Murder Music. Almost, you know. So we'll add 8-Ball MGG. That's the first time I ever heard them. They do this on Mob. So it's where I'm from. So that joint, obviously the joint with Quiet Storm, you know, it's a dope record. I think Mob, for me, almost like you said, ushering the reemergence of Queens, but just the consistency, you know, Infamous to Hell on Earth to Murder Music, just, you know, I think they're accountable for, you know, being such established artists. My next one is DMX. I think everybody talks about his Dark Cells Out. You know, I never heard Get At Me Dog. I didn't hear that first. I heard niggas gonna start something first. That's the first word I remember hearing. And just had a posse cut and stuff. Locks, obviously, Mason on there. But I was X. You know, he's a unique individual, one of one, as I love to say. And then my last joint is Sound Bombing 2. I think that compilation albums kind of got lost. I love Marley Marl and Control. And I mean, I noticed, I think Sound Bombing 1 was dope too, but Sound Bombing 2, Commons, Not X, 99, you know, that's just, you know, to set it off. Obviously, Eminem is on there. It's got Pharaoh on there. Got Shabab Sadiq. This is a dope compilation.
Yeah, yeah. Vay, what you got for your last three?
All right, 9-8. I have Black Star. I think for what they did to like help push the raucous record style at that time, when hip hop was commercially successful and it was like a goal to be successful in that way, like the waves that obviously Mos Def and Talib, but also everybody else that followed, that they did at the time. It was kind of like an album that you don't expect to be that popular at that time in hip hop, but it was, alongside, you know, DMX is dropping and going platinum, but people still, they're messing with X, but they still fucking with Black Star because they were dope. So I think they did a great job of keeping a lot of tradition alive in hip hop at a time where everybody could have just switched. So also 1999, I have Doomsday, MF Doom. I think that he has to be in there in some way, you know, and probably a little bit later with Mad Villainy, but definitely with this, because for one, this is a dude making a comeback, because hip hop is still young at this time. This is a dude who, you know, KMD was years earlier, so you basically forgot about them with all the different things that happened since then. And this guy reinvents himself, unconventional production, unconventional rhyme style, and really takes it back to a grassroots kind of level of hip hop, where, you know, he starts out with this underground sound and following, but it kind of morphs into something that's just as popular as, you know, some of the more famous artists, obviously along the line. So it kind of set a tone for, again, saying you don't have to conform to what's popular at the time. You can really just be original and genuine and still have impact. And lastly, I also have The Roots, Things Fall Apart. I feel like The Roots are similar to Outkast in a lot of ways, where, you know, you listen to those earlier albums and it's really real hip hop bench, and then Philadelphia comes out and it's like, oh, boom bap, like, you know what I'm saying? It's real crisp on that, but this is kind of what The Roots became, which is Things Fall Apart, as far as the sound and the collaborations and introducing you to artists, bringing back beatboxing in a way that, you know, because I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, what the fuck is this, a track with somebody beatboxing? And I kind of, you know, as a hip hop head, I kind of liked it, because I was like, yo, you know, yeah, why are we leaving these elements of hip hop in the past just because it's passe? So I like that a lot about that album. Like you said, Kill, the different covers. It was just a lot with that album that, again, they saw commercial success with their single "You Got Me," but at the same time, they didn't compromise their lyrical integrity, and they made me like something that I didn't like around that time, because I was one of those hip hop heads. You know, now I'm a little bit different, but back then, like, if you was doing shit I considered old, I didn't want to hear that shit. So the routines, I was like, yo, why are y'all doing routines? It's 1998. And I didn't like when De La Soul would do it sometime, and they kind of don't come from that era, but I think I liked what they were doing there, because again, you're kind of keeping hip hop alive while doing this new thing, and you know, and trying some other things, like you said, with the working with like Dilla and all of that. So those were mine, and I do have a South one, an honorable mention, but I'll bring that up later.
All right, no doubt, man. Here's a joint that I found the other day. It was a city paper, and this was an article they did while The Roots was making Things Fall Apart. And it basically was like, you know, they were basically saying, like, this is it for us. This is, if this album don't do it, and this could be a wrap for The Roots. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like with the What If show. Like, you know, what if this album flopped and that was it for The Roots? You know what I mean? So it's just crazy. A very dope article.
And to your point, they addressed it on the intro, right? That what was it from Mo Better Blues? That scene? Was it from? No, what movie was that from?
Yeah, it's Mo Better.
Yeah,
it's Mo Better.
I think so.
Yeah, where they're talking about you know, crossing over and all that, and you know, making music. You know, making the shit that they like and all, like that whole dynamic, right? That was the thing about The Roots, right? It's kind of like sometimes they could get in their own way with trying to be too artistic and too, you know, and so I think with obviously with Philadelphia, you know, it came together, but you know, with Things Fall Apart, they were able to have their creativity, but just make just a really dope album their way, right? So yeah.
What you got for your last three? What you got for your last three, Eddie?
I got Mos Def and Talib Kweli are Black Star. You know, a lot of people already talking about it. You know, it was pretty much like for those who were kind of tuned into like the early lyricist lounge shit and like maybe the first sound bombing, like this felt like a super group, coming together, because Most was doing his own thing, Talib was doing his thing with High Tech, and this kind of like forming together for that raucous culture, you know what I'm saying? And I know everyone's going to talk about Mos Def's performance on this album, which is incredible. Obviously, like, Thieves in the Night, one of my favorite hip hop verses of all time, that Mos Def Thieves in the Night verse, and obviously Respiration and a lot of shit. But Talib Kweli got busy too, you know what I'm saying? And trust me, I know, like, he didn't make too many fans, like the way he handled himself on social media and stuff like that, but I still got to give him his flowers, you know what I'm saying? He got busy. And the production, I know High Tech did a lot of stuff. I think, who else? Like J. Rawls, like, did some shit on there too, right?
J. Rawls, High Tech, the Beat Miners, and High Tech, Sean J. Period, J. Rawls, and the Beat Miners.
Yeah. So just a dope combination. Like the album came together just beautifully, and speaking on subjects. And I also have DMX Is Dark and Hell Is Hot. This is an album that initially I didn't know I was gonna like it, like, because Get At Me Dog, I liked. I don't know if I really loved it. Like, it was cool, I liked it. It's like, this is cool. Rough Riders Anthem, man. At first, I'll be honest, like, I wasn't feeling that Swiss piano shit. I wasn't. I was like, what the fuck is this, yo? Like, but it grew on me, right? But then when I heard the whole album, it was when I really was able to appreciate it, you know what I'm saying? Dame Grease on the production side was an MVP on that,
I agree.
Swiss was passable. Dame Grease gave DMX that heat,
yes.
DMX had some joints, you know what I'm saying? Like him doing his Stop Being Greedy, like the whole playing both sides, and then he kind of did that also I think, I can't remember if Damien was on that album or was it on Flesh of My Flesh. Was it on the first?
I think it was on the first album.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying, I like how he did that. He started the whole trend with like the prayer joints and all that. It's very, very dope album, and just I think the personality, like the persona of DMX just grew from there, right? And then my last one is 2001 by Dr. Dre. Talked about it on the 99 show. To me, this one has to be on the Bible for what it did for the West Coast. Obviously, the first Chronic being a classic. This one, I think, sonically still holds up. Definitely still holds up. The songs, lots of classics. You know what I'm saying? Had Snoop come back, but now he had Eminem. Eminem on a few joints. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, just a powerhouse album for the West Coast.
All right, no doubt. Couple questions. We talked about the South. Questions. Do you think, and I'm not saying this is the only reason why it's so dope. I'm not saying this by any chance. Horace, did you have high expectations? Because what was it? We got Into the 36, we got Tikal, we got Old Dirty, then we're getting Ray. Did you have high expectations for this Raekwon album?
Yes, because like the Wu 36 Chambers set the standard of what they were capable of doing, and that was a stellar album. Then you have Tikal, which was Method Man. I mean, everyone loved Method Man, and although that wasn't, out of this world, sort of the greatest of all time, all the other albums were in a certain sound, and they were at a certain level, and they were at a certain way of being rolled out, that yes, you anticipate another Wu drop, you anticipate another RZA like dope production, you anticipate all of these things. So yeah, I would have to say I was expecting dope, and I got it. So
all right, cool. Kel, what about you? Because for me, Tikal was a letdown.
Big letdown.
I felt like Old Dirty was dope. I felt like Old Dirty was dope, but I didn't feel like it was a classic.
Nah.
You know, I know for me, Ray, I had no expectations. Like, I literally had no expectations. It was just like, oh, Ray's coming out. Okay, cool. You know,
I didn't think it was what it was.
Yeah, and then it kind of just hit me. Like, oh shit. So you know how I always say, you know, a lot sometimes, and again, no one take this the wrong way. 5 Mike album, taking nothing away from it. I just wonder, like, did us not expecting it make it such a dope album? Because it doesn't even matter. It is what it is. I just was trying to figure out, like, for people watching, because I think the way we talk about the Purple Tape is kind of similar to how we talk about Illmatic. So it's like, oh, we were all anticipating Nas. When is Nas coming? Whereas with Raekwon, for me, that I was sitting around like, oh my God, twiddling my thumbs. Can't wait for Ray and Ghost. Like, I ain't know who fuck Ghost was at that time. Do you know what I mean? To even anticipate.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think to your point, Nas' high anticipation meant that high anticipation. Everyone thought, you know, it's best lyricist out of all of them. So you're expecting a dope album and then you don't get it. So yeah, I don't think Ray, there was no expectations for Ray. So for me, right. I was like, all right, you know, he's nice, but I wasn't expecting, you know, I was expecting Met to have the dopest album.
Right. What about you, Veg? Were you like before, not before you heard anything, but just, I don't even remember how we knew what was coming next. I'm assuming a source, you know, I'm assuming that, you know, we would see an ad. So, you know, Tikal isn't what you thought it would be. I don't know. I didn't think, so after Tikal wasn't what it was, I never had no high expectations for Dirty's album. You know, when I heard Brooklyn Zoo, I was blown away because I was like, yo, this shit crazy. Now this album may be crazy. Brooklyn Zoo is what took me to the level of this shit may be crazy. But before hearing that, I was just like, okay, he's a crazy boy in the group. Like, I don't know, you know. But Vague, for you, before hearing anything, were you hyped for like Cuban Links? Like, yo, I can't wait to see what Ray and Ghost got for us.
Yeah, I was probably hyped for 2 reasons. One, I listened to 36 so much, like hearing that they were going to all drop albums, depending on how much I liked that group member, it made me anticipate the album. So with Ray, he was more on my speed because he was less style and more like substance as a person, right? He was going to talk that street shit and stuff like that. So I wanted to hear it. I didn't necessarily like Ghost like that on 36. So I figured like they were trying to wean Ghost in with Ray. But the thing that got me hyped, to your point, like with Brooklyn Zoo, was Heaven and Hell was on the Fresh soundtrack. And when I heard that shit, I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready. Like, if it's gonna be this, I'm ready. Because to your point, like we said earlier, it's different from Jizza, it was different from ODB. It was like, this is what I want to hear. You know, this is my favorite part of the Wu, and I think Ghost won me over on that album compared to the group album. So.
All right. And what about you, Eddie? Were you anticipating the joint?
I was anticipating. I mean, from 36, I was like anything the Wu was putting out, I was like checking for, right, on that level. But like Vegas mentioned, like, you know, Wu was dropping a lot of joints on soundtracks. You know, they've done it over the years. So that was probably the first I heard from that. I didn't. The thing I thought it would be a dope album. The thing I didn't expect was the having it such a theme. You know, just because 36 Chambers didn't really have a theme. Tikal didn't really have a theme. Neither did Return to the 36, right? So for this to be a concept album with a theme that kind of carries through, with character, right? Essentially, they became caricatures, right? Characters, not caricatures. They became characters and were playing their role in the story. That I didn't expect, right? And I think all of those details, that's to me what made it just the bona fide classic, just from being just a really dope album to being the classic that it is. All that attention to detail and crafting it, even including the sequencing and all that.
All right, no doubt. Now, again, we were talking about how there's a lot of albums here. We got Pac's Me Against the World and All Eyes on Me. I'm shocked I'm the only person who said All Eyes on Me. I'm not going to hold you. Huh? And Machiavelli. And
Machiavelli, yeah.
So
a lot of people feel like Machiavelli was the best one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people feel like that.
So I think the thing is, so again, I understand, Porsche, that this was hard. Vague, you and Porsche, two of the biggest Pac fans I know, both chose Me Against the World. Do you think that's the best album for... I know you felt as though that was the best album for the Bible. Do you feel as though that's his best album?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I would be comfortable saying yes to that for sure.
Okay, because I was just a little shocked because I expected some more Me Against the Worlds, and it was just me of all people. That's the other thing. Then you got his Dark and Hell and Hot, Flesh and Flesh. Nobody said the Flesh joint.
I thought the Flesh of My Flesh joint had some songs on it, but I felt like there was a lot of skips on that album.
Okay.
It wasn't that strong.
Okay. It wasn't strong. All right. And Hell on Earth and the Infamous. Cal, of course, being a Queens nigga, this nigga got Murder Music in Hell on Earth.
I got Infamous too, but I was like, everybody else talked about it, so I didn't even include it. So.
I had Infamous, but I could only pick 12, so I did have Infamous.
Here you go. And we had AT Aliens and Aquemini. Porsche, you were the only one who said AT Aliens. Do you feel, again, is that for the Bible, or do you feel like for you, AT Aliens is their best album? Or why did you pick it over Aquemini?
Aquemini to me is their best album, but AT Aliens for me is for the Bible. I have both on there, but I know
you were forced to only pick 12. We know.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
That's it.
I as well, but I just think that AT Aliens, if I had to choose one, it would be AT Aliens. But because Aquemini, I think is their best album.
Okay. What were you saying, Eddie?
I made a change like during the show. I was originally gonna go with both of those albums, but I thought about it and I was like, all right, let me just pick one. And to me, I think Aquemini was the album where they really became they really became the artists that we know them as, right? Where they kind of went all in, right? With their eccentricities and their character and all of that, right? Like, with songs like Spodioti and Rosa Parks and like all that, like, that's right. Why I think.
All right, and just for people at home watching, we left a lot of heavy hitters off. It was hard. And again, I mean hard just from the system of looking at all the dope albums that dropped that year. Y'all know the Shining by Smith & Wesson, one of my favorite hip-hop albums ever. It's the perfect winter album. The second, it's about 58 outside. Time to break that joint out. It's the perfect album. Huh? Tim's in the Hood Check. Like, Living Proof, Group Home, Wrath for the Math, J. Rue, Firing Squad, MOP, Iron Man, Ghost, The War Report, CNN, Jewels, OC, When Disaster Strikes, Buster, When They All Make Sense, Comment. I was actually shocked nobody picked In My Lifetime. No, my bad. That's the second album. I'm more shocked people didn't pick Hard Knock Life. That's the one that I'm actually shocked.
I had it because I think it is one of those albums, but when you got to break it down to 12, I just thought the 12 I chose was better for it.
Right. Moment of Truth, Gangstar. You know what I mean? Didn't get named. So it's a lot of stuff up here. Eddie, you were the only one who named 2001, Dre, which I was a little shocked about too. But again, very dope show. People go back and tap into the other biblical shows, tap into them and see what we're picking, and definitely check out the 80s one, because what I loved about the 80s one is, for a lot of people may not understand, from 80 to about 84, there weren't a lot of rap albums. So during that time, we were including 12 inches, because at that time, a 12 inch was just as important as an album. I was talking to one of my OGs, and he was like, nigga, I know T. La Rock better be on your fucking list. And I'm like, nigga, stop being so fucking aggressive, number one. Like, that's number one. But nigga, T. La Rock only had It's Yours. That nigga said that's all that motherfucking needed was It's Yours, nigga. Back in 1983, that's all you fucking needed was a song. It's Yours ran for fucking 3 years, nigga. Make sure T. La Rock get on your list. I'm like, okay, I got you. So I had to take that. I mean, that's real, So for that era, there were 12 inches because labels didn't know what to do. It's like they weren't going to sign you to a whole label deal until they knew they could actually sell records. You know what I mean? So the 12 inches what had to really spawn us for everything at first.
He's still performing that song. I was in a bar.
And I still love It's Yours the same way I did fucking 30 years ago, probably 35 years ago. I can't do math, y'all. It's too late. But yeah, like from the first time I heard it, T. La Rock. Bed-Stuy Vintage, talk a little bit about it. I really honestly believe that we should be in contention for album of the year.
Same, man. You know what I'm saying? It made me start spitting some bars up here. Nah, man. It's a dope album. It's our 6th project together. It's really the whole vintage side of it is not just because it's commemorating 30 years of rapping, but also just taking it back to basics. We've done a couple of different albums that I've always reached for concepts and themes and stuff like that to just do more than rapping and variety. But on this one, for the majority of the album, songs like Hoodie Vegas and Rorschach Test and Last Verse and trapping shit, like they're just straight boom bap and bars and shit talking and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things where me and Kill have great chemistry. You know what I'm saying? Kill sends me like 1,000 beats. I literally have to take a day off for work. Like, fuck it, I go through all of these shits, turn it all the way up. But nah, we find things that work. I send them things, and we see what's cool, and I kind of go with the vibe. And I think with this project, in a lot of ways it could be an introduction. Like you don't have to have listened to everything we've done. You can listen to this, like was there, then you go back and listen to Willmatic, which is the album we did dedicated to my cousin Ill Will, which has a whole different vibe and a different rhyme style, the storytelling and stuff like that. And you could just go down the line. We got drumless tracks together. You know what I'm saying? We got a double time joint. Most people who hear me rap, they think I rap one way. I rap a couple of different ways. You know what I'm saying?
Vegas does shock me. I'll be like, yo, you picked that, nigga? I didn't even really mean to send you that shit in the first place. Like, nigga.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's really just one of those albums where we kind of bring it back to bars, and it kind of makes sense considering everything you've seen this year with Common and Pete Rock and LL and Q-Tip coming back, this battle with Drake and Kendrick really showing that hip-hop still reigns supreme. You can't social media influence it into a win. You just gonna get burnt just like it was 83. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and if y'all allow me to get on the industry soapbox really quick, they're deprioritizing hip-hop and trying to bring country up a little bit if you're paying attention. And it just says that people don't want to, and it's no disrespect to them because unfortunately they were kind of used, but people don't want to hear the Sexy Reds and the Ice Spices. They got a little love for Glorilla, but that's kind of like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, not like us. It's the 10 on the top 100 Hot 100 charts today, and it dropped in May, and it's a fucking diss record. So I think people care about bars and artistry more in hip hop, and they're kind of done with the fluff and the two-step and the new dance shit to a certain extent. And I think when we created this project, we didn't have that in mind. We was just trying to make something that sound dope. And I think from the intro that features Kill going on a rant right here on Apartment 5B podcast, I think it sets the tone for, sure, we're of a certain age and we're from a certain era or whatever, but this should still resonate. This sound, these beats, the subject matter, the bars, they all should still resonate with hip hop fans of all ages. So you can check that out on Bandcamp at vegasworldinc.bandcamp.com. Also, it's available on Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal and all of that. But the easiest way, if you can't write all that shit down, because who does that? You can just follow me on any social media platform at vegasworldinc, and we appreciate your support. So.
No doubt, no doubt. Eddie, where can they get at you, man?
Yo, on Twitter right there at EddieD80. Catch me on TikTok, man. It's Loa Marauder. Yeah, man. That's it.
All right. Kel, where can they catch you besides Morgan's Homecoming this weekend?
Catch me at Calvin Davis Sr. on Twitter and at Big Calvin on Instagram.
All right, no doubt. You already know what it is with me, Kill889, Twitter, IG. Got the album out with Vegas. Got the album out with Rel. It's Not You, It's Me. Finishing up this Back with Sweetie album, first single with Tajay. Video should be dropping this week. So we're excited about that. Just got this book in the mail. I'm still the bookworm. Breaks in the Air, the birth of rap radio in New York City. I'd never seen this book before. Somebody sent it to me on Twitter like, yo, you seen this? Copped it on Amazon. So haven't even dived into it yet, but definitely, anything about hip hop on the radio, I got to tap into. Veg, have you seen this before?
Nah, I might have to check
What's it
that
called?
It's called Breaks in the Air by John Classes, the birth of rap radio in New York City. It's on Amazon. So Amazon, like $20 on Amazon. But definitely cop that. All right, good peoples, I will check y'all next week.